Hey YouTubers, just a quick Dragon Ball discussion. Honestly, I just wanted to kind of breach this subject with you guys. Personally, like when it comes to Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super, even any of the games, the movies, or anything, I feel like when we all make our lists of some of the coolest things that ever happened in Dragon Ball, I feel like one of the things, or a couple of the things that really get, I guess, every fan going, some of the most awesome scenes in the franchise are, one, when Goku goes Super Saiyan, and again when Super Saiyan 2 kind of shows its face with Gohan versus Cell. And more so than not, I see a lot of people kind of putting Super Saiyan 2 beyond Super Saiyan, the Super Saiyan transformation with Goku, and I was always wondering, like, why that is. I mean, like, it's not that, I mean, there's really no, it's just all personal preference in my opinion. There's really no right or wrong answer, but I was always wondering, like, why is it when we have basically such epic moments kind of leading into these awesome awesome transformations, and why is it that a lot of people prefer the Super Saiyan 2 transformation over the Super Saiyan transformation on Namek? Is it really because it's the better of the two, or is there some kind of a more, I guess, less likely reason, or like a little bit less apparent reason, I guess is the right term? And I was thinking about it, and I think I have an answer, at least for me. Because if you ask me, I do think the Super Saiyan 2 transformation is better than the Super Saiyan 1 transformation. And personally, the only reason I feel like that is actually the case is because I actually started watching Dragon Ball with Dragon Ball Z quite early on, too, when it actually started airing. I've said that before in a couple videos, but I started when it really first started airing on Cartoon Network, Toonami, and it was pretty awesome. I mean, I'm not like one of the first people who started watching it. Obviously, you got to go to people like Danny or, Geekdom 101 or other people who have been watching it for far longer and knew about it before it became a little bit more mainstream. Even I was a little bit late to the party, but I did start watching it, and I think it was like 97 when it came out. And back then, one of the biggest gripes amongst like all these fans, a lot of stuff that was really getting on people's nerves even just like a year ago, is the fact that like a lot of people hadn't read the manga, a lot of people hadn't even watched Dragon Ball. And I really think, like, back then, I didn't even know that Dragon Ball existed. The only kind of semblance of Dragon Ball that I actually got was those flashbacks that they showed from Dragon Ball into Dragon Ball Z, and I always thought it was so weird because it's like, oh man, I've like missed a whole lot of this show. How long has this show been on? And I guess for a little bit I was actually right, but considering nobody was growing up and everything, and there wasn't any huge time skips in between, like when Raditz shows up and when Frieza kind of comes, it was just kind of a couple days or a couple weeks or maybe just like a year. I was always wondering, I was like, oh man, like how much of this show did I miss? And quite frankly, like, yeah, there was a lot. And when we got to Namek and Goku basically transforming, having actually trained with King Kai and fighting Vegeta and Nappa and everything, he basically the savior of the story, the main protagonist, when he turned Super Saiyan, it was epic. But it was really epic because the majority of that arc had spent so much time basically explaining what a Super Saiyan was, and Vegeta just wouldn't shut up about it, and all this other stuff. We kind of knew it was coming. We wanted it to kind of show up, and everything just basically led up to that moment, but was really kind of pointed at running up to that moment. And even though Goku was this protagonist character, even from Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, we always had Gohan in the kind of the background, and we always saw, even especially if you started from Dragon Ball Z, which a lot of us did, you saw Gohan basically be in the background with these weird spurts of energy, right? Like, man, like how strong is this kid if like he's basically on par with his dad? And it led all the way to the Super Saiyan 2 transformation. And personally, I feel like if you start with Dragon Ball Z, and it's all nostalgia based, it's all based on like how you were interacted with it the very first time mostly, than how you've interacted it with the second or third or fourth time that you've actually watched the series as a whole. And I really think that because I started with Z and moved forward, and I knew that Goku was the protagonist, but there was always these weird spurts of energy when it came to Gohan's character, then it was kind of leading up to something and building to something that was really emotionally impactful when he turned Super Saiyan 2 versus Cell and everything that kind of came before that. And if I had started watching it from Dragon Ball, I feel like the Super Saiyan transformation probably would have been even more impactful than it actually was. In fact, probably would have been the best scene I had ever seen, just because, you know, you start with Goku as a kid and not necessarily being strong, you know, even Krillin being on his equal, like his equal side, and people saying like, you know, this kid isn't normal, there's something kind of weird about him, and seeing him fight Piccolo Daimao, all the stuff that he went through to fight Piccolo Daimao and then Piccolo Jr. during the tournament, and then everything leading up into him actually turning into a Super Saiyan in Dragon Ball Z. I feel like that amount of time spent with him, that extra 153 episodes from Dragon Ball, would have really made that way more impactful than it did basically for Gohan. But just considering how much, like, where I started in the series and how I kind of progressed throughout the series, I can understand, and at least I understand, at least for myself, why I will never not like Super Saiyan 2 transformation over the original Super Saiyan transformation back on Namek. And that's just my opinion, like that's just my kind of explanation as to why I think Gohan's transformation into Super Saiyan 2 is the better of the two. And I mean, maybe this applies to the greater whole of the community. I really want to hear everyone's opinions about this going into the comment section below. Please make sure to share your thoughts. And like I always say, please make sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and I'm going to catch y'all later.